Getting things done is hard. With an endless list of things to do and only 24 hours every day, how do you get it all done? Hey friend, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to give you my top 7 time management techniques that you can use to start ruling your days. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dan, and I post videos every week about productivity and performance. So as always, feel free to skip ahead to a specific technique if you want. But for now, let's just get started. And number 1 is to work from your calendar. Making lists of things to do and trying desperately to finish them isn't enough. It doesn't give your day structure or routine. In other words, to-do lists don't help you focus. Your tasks need to be associated with time. It's literally on the first word, time management. I love writing down lists of things to do or shopping lists or doing brain dumps. But when it comes to managing your time, to-do lists are very weak, and instead you need to start working from your calendar. And this means putting things on your calendar so you know exactly at what time you'll be doing each task. And if you're anything like me and you love doing lists of things that you need to do, you can use that exercise as sort of a brain dump. Basically, you write down all the things that you need to do. And this is a really helpful exercise to do when you're doing your weekly review, if that's, for example, on a Friday or a Sunday just before the week starts. And after completing that list, you can now start transferring the items to your calendar. And if you really like that dopamine hit of crossing things from your to-do list, good news is you can still do that. Once you have completed a task that is now on your calendar, you can go back to your to-do list and simply cross it. And this is going to act as sort of a reward to your brain that you have completed something. And that is very satisfying. And that's it for the very first and most basic time management rule, which is to work from your calendar rather than from a to-do list. And to get even more of your calendar scheduling, you need to plan ahead. This technique is all about taking control of your week ahead of time. You can do this either at the end of your week, for example on a Friday evening, or you can do this on a Sunday, and that's a time that you feel a little bit more relaxed, or you can do it first thing in the morning on Mondays. What matters more is that you do it, and you do it every week. So you want to reserve at least 30 to 45 minutes to study your calendar and plan your upcoming week. Studying your calendar is all about looking at next week's appointments and see if there's anything that you can shuffle around or anything that can be eliminated. For example, you might have a one-on-one meetings regularly scheduled with somebody, but you don't have anything new to discuss that week. So you can talk with that person and suggest canceling the meeting that week. Or maybe you have a very important presentation to deliver on Wednesday, but you have lots of meetings on Tuesday. So now you see if it's possible to move things around so that you have the meetings on Thursday or Friday instead, so that you have time to prepare for the presentation on Wednesday. So planning ahead takes a lot of effort and also a little bit of your time. But I find it one of the best ROI for your time, and also gives you a greater sense of control over your week. So now you know how to plan your week ahead of time. But how do you decide what's most important on a given day? For that, you need to start with your MIT. MIT stands for Most Important Task. It's that one critical task that will give you the most important results on the things that you want to achieve. Because here's the reality. Not all tasks are created equal. Some of them are more important than others. Remember, your goal is to make the most out of your limited time. So it really pays to focus on completing your most important task first before spending any time or energy on anything else. So the trick is to go to your calendar and block out 2 to 3 hours to focus on your MIT first thing in the morning. And it should really be a continuous block of time. Like finding 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there and then adding up that's 2 hours, it won't work. You want 2-3 hours, one block, first thing in the morning, working on your MIT. So the question becomes, how do I decide my MIT? And for this, I really like using 2 questions from Tim Ferriss. The number 1 is, if this were the only thing I accomplished today, would I be satisfied with my day? And if I can't decide my most important task based on this, I will move to question number 2. Will moving this forward make all the other to-dos unimportant or easier to knock off later? And with just a couple of minutes intentionally thinking about those 2 questions, you'll get to your MIT. And once you have that, you can schedule them in your calendar first thing in the morning. Stephen Covey said it best in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And different people use different names for the same thing. Maybe you have heard of your biggest frog or your one thing. It doesn't matter the terminology. What matters is understanding there is only one most important task every day. Alright, let's move to number 4, create deadlines. Having an end time for your tasks forces you to get it done. And while some of your tasks might have deadlines, for example doing a presentation at 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning, many other tasks don't. What you want to do for those tasks is to create an artificial deadline. Basically, you want to assign yourself a period of time to complete that task. And there are two main benefits for creating deadlines. First, because you know you only have a limited certain amount of time to complete that task, you don't have any spare room for procrastination. It basically forces you to jump into action. And the second one is you don't have to decide what to do next. Past you already made that decision. Now it's a matter of looking at your calendar, see what you have to do, and just get started. But I want to give you a little bit of a warning. If you're anything like me, you fall into the dreamer category of time psychology. Dreamers have a hard time figuring out how long something will take. So you're very optimistic when creating your deadlines. You sort of schedule 1 hour to do something, but then it ends up taking 3 or 4 hours. To solve your dreamer tendencies, what you want to do is record your actual times. This basically means at the end of your task, record how much time you actually worked on that task versus the time that you allotted for that task. When you have completed your task, look at the actual time it took you to complete that task. For example, maybe you gave yourself 1 hour for a specific task, but then you ended up working for 3 hours. So now you record the 3 hours for that specific task. And if this is a repeatable task, something that you have to do every week, now you have a much better understanding of the amount of time that it will actually take to complete it. You now have a better understanding of the actual real time that it takes to do that task. And that's gonna help you adjust your deadlines in the future. You now know that 1 hour is insufficient to complete that task. So instead, you start to block 3 hours to complete that task. If you want to add a little bit more pressure, you can combine this with Parkinson's Law. So Parkinson's Law states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Basically, if you give yourself 3 hours to complete a task, it will take 3 hours. But if you give yourself 10 hours to complete a certain task, it will probably take those 10 hours. So how do you use this to your advantage? Coming back to our example, you schedule 1 hour, it actually took 3. Using Parkinson's Law, you're gonna shrink the amount of time that you have to complete that task. So you could say, it normally takes me 3 hours, but I'm gonna try to make it in 2. So setting your own deadlines is an invaluable time management skill, and I really encourage you to make it a regular practice. And you can do this for any task that you have. So let's go to number 5, time blocking. So you already know that tasks need to be associated with time. You know that you have to figure out when a task will get done and how long it's gonna take. So you can expand this thinking for all the things that you have to do in your life. Time blocking is a technique that combines task management and your calendar. You create blocks on your days and give them tasks to focus on. Every task fits into its own time block without interrupting anything else. With time blocking, your calendar is completely filled. Work tasks, social events, and all the rest are planned and prioritized. And some of the most productive people in the world swear by this technique. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Cal Newport, all time blockers. So here's how to start time blocking your weeks. First, you're gonna make a list of all the things that you need to do in your professional and personal life. Then you're gonna create your most important blocks first thing in the morning for your most important things. Then you're gonna add all the things that are fixed. For example, every Thursday you exercise at 7 p.m. So now you want to fill your calendar with that activity because you can't move it or change it. By blocking out time for your personal activities at this point, you are creating a framework that your work can fit into. Finally, you're going to schedule all the other activities that you have to do around the blocks that you already filled. And that's really the entire game of time blocking. But I also want to give you 2 warnings when it comes to time blocking. First, make sure you schedule contingency time. What this means is scheduling extra time to deal with emergencies. In general, the more unpredictable your job, the more contingency time you're gonna need. Of course, some of the interruptions will be hard to predict, but leaving some open space in your schedule allows you the flexibility you need to rearrange tasks and respond to important issues as they arise. The second thing to remember is to schedule discretionary time. Not everything in life is all about being more productive. Sometimes you just want to kick back and relax. Or maybe you want to do some thinking or reading some books, and you really don't want to have a deadline for that. So make sure you leave some space in your calendar to rest and relax. Let's now move to number 6, color coding. At this moment, all the tasks in your calendar look exactly the same. They have the same color. And a little bit more advanced is to start using colors to identify certain types of tasks. And this gives you an even better idea of the type of work you're going to be doing in a day. You get a clear 10,000 feet zoom out view of exactly the kind of work you're going to do. Here's how I use this. I use different colors for what I like to call maker time and manager time. So if I'm writing an article or a newsletter or a video just like this, I'll use a specific color for that type of activity. But if I'm doing more manager work where I have to reply to emails or maybe have a Zoom call or something like that, I'll use a different color for that type of activity. And I do this for my personal life as well. So if I'm having a social event, for example, having dinner out with friends, I'll use a specific type of color for that. And if I'm doing sports on my own, different color for that one too. So what you want to do is look at your work and then look at your personal life and think of the categories that you want to use. A word of warning though is don't use a lot of categories. It's very easy to go overboard with this in the beginning. Anywhere between 3 to 6 colors is ideal. But what colors should I use? That is a very good question. Let's very quickly look at the psychology of colors. So red is eye-catching, so it's the perfect color to use for any important tasks that you must prioritize. Blue, on the other hand, is calm and relaxing. You can use it for breaks or tasks that you enjoy doing. White often represents simplicity, potential, and happiness. One great way to use white is to use it for planning-based tasks. You can use white to highlight times when you'll be setting goals or preparing for a meeting. You can also use white to highlight areas where you may want to squeeze something in. Gray is often described as being a bland color, but it can also be associated with the word subtle. And when you use this meaning, gray can be great for tasks that may not be set in stone. If you have several red tasks, a gray task may be able to be pushed forward. Green is another color that has multiple meanings. One way that you can use green is to apply it to health or fitness-based tasks. Green can be an excellent color to use for gym sessions, meal breaks, or even doctor's appointments. Finally, although orange and yellow are two separate colors, they often have the same meaning. Both colors tend to evoke feelings of happiness, joy, and excitement. So it only makes sense to use yellow or orange for items that excite you. One way to use both of these colors is to separate them based on your overall happiness levels. So now you know the psychology behind the most common colors. And you're now ready to start color coding your calendar. Before you do that though, I have one more time management technique for you, and that is batching. So what is batching? Batching is all about grouping specific tasks that are similar and doing them together. The idea is to focus on tasks less often, but longer. Batches usually contain tasks that share a similar state of mind or are done in the same place. The point is to increase efficiency by reducing setup and switching costs. A simple metaphor to explain what batching really means is washing your clothes. So whenever you're done with a piece of clothing, you don't immediately wash it. You wait for other clothes to pile up and then you do all of them in a simple wash. You wait until you have enough clothes to fill up your machine, and then you do one wash. So the same principle can be used for some of your tasks. Here are some examples of tasks that you can batch: email, errands, meetings, cooking and meal preparation, reading articles, browsing social media, responding to messages or returning phone calls, cleaning or household maintenance. And now that you're familiar with time blocking, all you have to do is to go into your calendar and schedule one block for your batching. Remember to add some context to your block. You can say batching and the type of tasks that you're going to be doing. For example, batching admin or batching email. And combining this with color coding, you can even give a specific color to your batching blocks. So batching is a really great time management technique to blaze through all of your small tasks in one go. Alright, that's it for my favorite 7 time management techniques. You can start by applying one of these techniques right away. But to get the best results, I suggest combining all 7 of them. These will improve your self-discipline and the quality of your work, allowing you more time to rest and relax, and that leads to reducing stress. And I'm reminded of a great quote by James Clear on Atomic Habits. Amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals stick to the schedule. Please subscribe to the channel to get updates from me every week on the best content around productivity and performance. Thank you, and I see you on the next video.